I agree with many that rehabilitating the mansion into a dance hall and events venue would put it into a much needed use in the community. But what if the rest of the land, and how would a house, even a 3-story, 25-room house with a colorful history in the boondocks, draw revenue from outside the region? I've actually been thinking about that for over a decade. Roughly 20 years ago, I started researching amusement parks and rides with the intent of creating a sort of family tree of amusement rides. In the process, I've compiled an archive of amusement ride images, brochures, catalogs, and magazines, and discovered a thriving community of historical ride enthusiasts who have for some years been trying to find land to establish a park specifically for the preservation and enjoyment of historic amusement rides. For the last 15 years or so, I've held a dream of developing the Novitiate into a working amusement park museum. The modern understanding of amusement park is now old enough that it's possible to create a park around the theme of amusement park history, looking at the 20th century in 4 major themes: the White City, 1890s to 1920s, Johnny's Homeland, 1930s to 1940s, Rocket Town, 1950s to mid-1970s, and the Digital Domain, mid-1970s to 1990s. A community-oriented amusement park offers several opportunities to individuals and organizations of many specialties. Area high school students could gain vocational experience in overwinter ride maintenance and refurbishment programs, then earn college money working in summer. It's possible this might even lead to a college program and development of additional businesses of rehabilitating and refurbishing vintage rides. And using amusement eras as theming provides an educational backdrop for what was going on through the 20th century. The White City would, of course, be white, with mild-mannered but beautifully ornamented rides of the Gilded Age. There's a roller coaster simulator called Max Flight. I've often wondered if it could be programmed to reenact defunct coasters like the Crystal Beach Cyclone and Coney Island Tornado, but not having an amusement park to install it in, I never bothered to inquire. Johnny's Homeland would show the make-do spirit of how parks dealt with wartime restrictions, like unpainted support structures, and the patriotism, buy war bonds and other such posters, of supporting the greatest generation, and many of the rides would have combat inspiration and theming. Rocket Town would focus on the space race with aerospace-themed rides, especially rockets, and emphasis on futurist technologies like aerodynamic hulls, jet airplanes, and mini-computers. Digital Domain would have a decidedly more electronic feel than the other areas. Rides not only have more complex motions, but more complicated lighting schemes and design themes, and artwork is dominated by the 8-bit graphics of 640 kilobyte MS-DOS design capabilities. Then there's food. If concessions were contracted out to local vendors, food entrepreneurs who aren't prepared to take on a full brick-and-mortar restaurant, the sort who would have a food truck if Shawano was big enough to support them, could take the smaller step of running a concession. Plus, there's the current farm-to-table movement. How many amusement parks can say their guests can see the actual fields the park's food comes from? Hey, if there's cornfields nearby, the farmers might even be convinced to cut a few mazes in fall. This is not incompatible with using the mansion as an event venue. In fact, they are mutually supportive. The amusement park provides a draw for bringing in non-local businesses by upping its uniqueness factor, and using the mansion as an event venue not only brings in overwinter income while the amusement park is relatively idle, but by setting up side contracts with concession vendors would both reduce the risk of event businesses getting stuck with old food and give the concession vendors predictable demand for their products, a hedge against the feast or famine that weather often delivers to outdoor venues. The river offers an excellent backdrop for a picnic area, which is common to traditional amusement parks. The park could also serve as a launch recovery point for river rafting kayaking trips, either as a service of the park itself or by arrangement with an independent business. Dance halls or pavilions, which the area has an unfortunate reduction of in the last 20 years, are also common to traditional amusement parks. Leftover areas of the mansion can be used for the museum part of the park. Educational displays, advertising and other ephemera, miniatures and dioramas of gone but not forgotten, and rides, whole or partial, that are either mechanically incomplete or too fragile for regular operation, which could be set up as photo op stations, perhaps even attended by a photographer with camera equipment contemporary to the ride. Yes, I hear the accountant in the back of the room hyperventilating after just making an internet search and calculating the price for a dozen modern amusement rides. Give them a paper bag and hear me out. We're not looking for the latest and greatest. Modern spectacular rides have a lot of expensive electronics and often high G-forces, which require expensive testing and age a ride faster. They're sports cars. A lot of the rides built in the 60s and 70s are simpler and put less stress on both guests and the ride's structure. They're trucks that you can put umpteen miles on and they keep going.